Good morning. Welcome to the 10 Minutes with God broadcast. Um, Today we will discuss what I've called my bespoke worship, my own bespoke worship. And I chose a Friday for this because um, over the weekend I want us to enter into a season of worship, just burst into worship. But when we're doing that, remember that Ibukun's worship is different from Bola's worship. So I've called it My Bespoke Worship. And I'll be reading from Luke chapter 7, verses 37 and 38. The New Living Translation. When a certain immoral woman from that city, some versions call it a certain prostitute from that city, heard that Jesus was eating there in the house of the Pharisee, she brought a beautiful alabaster jar filled with expensive perfume. Then she knelt behind him at his feet, weeping. Her tears fell on his feet, and she wiped them off her hair with her hair. Then she kept kissing his feet and putting perfume on them. So I called it my bespoke worship. You see, when I come to God in worship, God said to me one day, he said, "Ibukun, do you know that that worship that you bring to me comes to heaven as a scent that is specific to you?" What does that mean? So when I come into worship, when I come to the throne of the Father, my worship carries a distinct aroma. My heaven recognizes my voice in worship. And why is that? When I raise a worship, it comes from my experience with God. It comes from a place of what I feel for Him from within that wasn't explained to me, but by my experiences of God. And I'll give you a typical example. So I'd waited on God for children, and then I had my first child. And he was doing his nursery graduation, nursery graduation. And I remember then Steve Crown came and he sang the song when the kids filed out. He sang, Onishe Iyanu. When I lifted my hands in worship, I wept like a baby as I sang. What was I thinking when I was worshiping and with so much tears in my eyes? A few years back, I went to a friend, before I had my kids, I went to a friend whose children were at their nursery graduation. And as I was taking a video of the children, I said to God that God, give me my own children. So when Steve Crown went up and I was taking a video of my son as he was going on his nursery graduation march, and he sang that song, I remembered and I flashed back. So when I sang, Onishe Iyanu, you are the God of awesome wonders, I remembered that prayer that I made. I could worship God from a place that was different from my neighbor who was singing the same song. So God said to me, he said, Ibukun, whenever you don't worship me for a while, I miss your own aroma. I miss your own worship. I miss the worship that comes from a place of what we've shared. So I say to people when I'm in church and I'm crying, I'm worshiping God, it's my understanding of Him that I bring to the table. So anytime that we are absent from that place of worship, God misses not just worship in general, God misses your own worship. Say, Ibukun has not been here in a while. I miss that part of our relationship. I miss that thing that you bring to the table. So every time we get into the place of worship, remember that when you come to your own worship, it's your own worship. I like the song that says, here is my worship, all of my worship, receive my worship. It's my own worship. Oh Lord, you are worthy, and no one can worship you for me. So when the choir leader leads the song, get an interpretation for you based on your experiences with God and love on Him. You see this woman, this harlot, when she came, people were calling her a harlot, but she brought her own worship. She understands because of her past, because of where she's coming from. She understands what it means to have a body that smells well. She was a harlot, she was a prostitute. So when she broke the alabaster box, so many people said different things. Why would she break an alabaster box, an expensive perfume? But that was her worship. By the things she's been through, by her life, by her past, by her experiences, by experiences with God. Her own worship was the breaking of the alabaster box because she could identify with it. She understood the worship. Jesus understood the worship. So the word today is basically to say to you that every time that you're absent in the place of worship, every time that you don't break your own alabaster box, God misses something. Has He missed you in that place of worship? Have you been away from the place where you get on a one-on-one with Him? When you go to church and there's a worship session going, do you put yourself into it and the words make a certain meaning to you? Jesus looks forward to having us come into that place. As a woman, you must have that place where you hobnob with Him, where you lay your crowns down, where you just be with Him in that relationship space, right? So this weekend, as we go into Saturday, Sunday, as we go to church on Sunday, remember that Ibukun's worship needs to come to God as a sweet smelling savour, that one that smells like Ibukun. Remember that I need to go into that space and give Him my own worship. He longs to have that worship with us, and that's where He really rubs off on us, and we rub off on Him. So have a lovely weekend. Create 1 hour, 2 hours, just worship and give Him your own worship. Have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. Meanwhile, thank God it's Friday and enjoy yourself. Thank you for joining me on this broadcast. Thank you so much. See you again next week.